Okay, when it comes to understanding formulas within Microsoft Excel, you need to understand that the worksheet's basically calculating arithmetic problems. Formulas are the equations in the worksheet. You need to know where you need to place the formulas. You need to know what cells need to be involved in the arithmetic calculations. What cells you need to be acted upon to create the new data that you need to create. So when you're creating calculations in Excel, it's important to remember that you create the formulas with care. You're very careful about what arithmetic operators you use, how you nest your formulas with parentheses, and how to use the cell references instead of the values to determine what calculations you want accomplished using Excel. So we saw this window earlier. When you look at Excel, you can see the formula up here in the status bar, which shows you what that cell calculation is. It shows you exactly what's going on in that cell, if there's a formula tied to that cell, or if it's just strictly numbers being entered into the cell. See, the arithmetic operators that are used in Excel are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, percent, and exponent, and those are all showed at the bottom of Excel page 7. So you need to enter labels and values and possibly use the auto sum button, which is a great way to add columns without having to write a formula. The labels contain text and numeric information not to be used in the calculation, and the values are the numbers or the values that the formula and the functions are supposed to be acted on by the calculations. A function is a built-in formula. A function includes arguments and the information necessary to perform the calculation that needs to be done. So if you click on the sum button, it sums the adjacent range above, below, or to the left or right of where you're at. The fill handle fills cells based on the first number sequence in the range. So let's take a look at an Excel spreadsheet. I created a spreadsheet here with just generic types of activities, just grab some numbers off an existing spreadsheet. And I wanted to be able to show you some things about what you can do with Excel. Let me shrink this down just a little bit more so you can see this really well and see all the buttons I'm looking at. Okay, if you're going to go down here to this cell, I'm going down to cell B13, and say I want it to calculate the values, add all the values together from from cell B2 through B12. So you could right click, or you could pick a formula from a drop-down menu. You could actually use this FX to insert a function, and you could select sum, say sum, and you want to go B2 to B12. Is that exactly what you want to do? You say OK. So it automatically picked B2 to B12. It went up and identified cells that actually had numerical values in, and then it chose that group to add up. Now the nice thing also about Excel, you can see here in your status bar, it shows you this cell's value is the sum of B2 colon B12, which means it's B2 through B12. You could also go down here, and let's go to cell C, and up here in the status bar you could write equals C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5 plus C6. Oops, I gotta do plus C6 plus C7 plus C8 plus C9 plus C10 plus C11 plus C12. Okay, that's the same thing. That selects that whole range. You can see how it's outlined there. Hit enter and it'll add those all up. But in a lot easier manner, you could write it like this: the sum of B2 through B12. And if you click on your range, it'll actually show you what range we're looking at. Another nice thing about Excel is the ability to copy a formula or a calculation from one column to the next, and it'll actually change the column and keep the same range. So let's do a Control C to copy B13, and let's place it in, let's go to D13. So we're going to paste it there. So it changed it from the sum of B2 to B12 to the sum of D2 through D12, and it performed the calculation for you right there. Okay, let's minimize this down. Okay, so the next slide says create a formula using the auto sum button. There is an auto sum button on your toolbar on your ribbon at the top. It was out of the window of mine. Let's go back to my Excel spreadsheet. If I stretch this out further, you'll be able to see the auto sum button is right over here. This is the auto sum button that they were just talking about. Okay, we want to pick a cell. We're going to pick F13. Then we'll go auto sum and tell it we want to do F2 through 12. Hit enter, and it'll automatically add it up for you. So the auto sum button's really handy without having to write any formula to actually do the auto sum for you.